Welcome back to Trainer Tips. I'm here with Cassie, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about how you can modify and maybe accommodate for some compensations that you may feel or you may be seeing when you do the side angle pose and or the triangle pose. So this is the exercise where you're standing sideways to the GTS. We had our leg out where it's aligned with the base and our foot on the glide board was pointing toward the tower. The first element we did was the triangle. That was when our glide board was open and your arms are coming out to the side and you had this lean going. And the focus here is with the torso. Now, oftentimes this is a really hard exercise to keep the torso aligned. So the ideal scenario, which requires a lot of control, would be with the glide board open. However, another ideal scenario to get better form is bring the glide board back in, bring your foot higher up on the board, cue the person to pull down through their heel a little bit to help activate a little bit more hamstring to maintain the board down. And now allow them to really focus in on that reach. So as you're reaching, you're thinking about keeping your torso aligned. You can come back up and take a break. The tendency is, I'm going to have you show the tendency, is to kind of rotate and reach, or maybe even like flex the trunk a little bit forward to reach. And maybe the gaze is somewhere off where the shoulders are coming up in the air. So you're really thinking about drawing the shoulder blades down. Another thing you want to cue is maybe the hips. So as people reach, you'll see this really nice long torso, but perhaps you're seeing this rotation of the hip occur to help compensate for some tightness. So with permission, and for you at home, you might think about pulling this hip back as you reach for the tower. Maybe as a trainer, if you're here, you might keep this hand on the hip and maybe cue a reaching component here and a lengthening component, a lifting up through the chest. So again, watch the hip and the torso, and that's with the triangle. Maintain the board closed to give a little bit more stabilization for the participant. Same concept of keeping the stabilization easier or more accommodating will be to start with the glide board closed when you move to side angle. So you might need to move the foot up or down. You find that position which works for you. You'll go into the side angle position. You'll still need to tell yourself to pull the board down. Now I say it's easier with stabilization versus an open glide board, but it's still hard to resist that tendency of pushing the board up. So you're still working. So don't say it's easier, that much easier. All right, now that I've said 10 disclaimers, let's move forward. So with this aspect, you're moving down first onto your forearm. Again, a lot of people like to just kind of relax and chill out. You want to think about if you had two toothpicks, I don't know why toothpicks, and they're on the hips and the lower ribs, that if one was right here, it'd poke you if you collapse. So you want to keep off of that. So you have this lengthening component as you go out. So it's like you're lifting the ribs off the hips as you're going into that side bend position. Once you're here and you feel you had this, I would first start with the arm reach. Can you maintain that? If you can, then bring the arm down because that adds another lever component, then transition down to the floor. In this position, you still want to think that lengthening. You're still cueing the chest open. Only when you feel ready do you come up and over. If I see a lot of bending here, I'm going to bring the arm back. I'm going to let it come all the way back down. Maybe I might have the hand go behind the body or have a palm go on the back of your torso like this. And this way I'll say, I want you to rotate open. That feels very different. And that's a nice way for you at home to feel like, how can I open up my own body if someone's not pulling me back? Again, shoulder blades you're thinking about. You're thinking about then that lengthening. You're thinking about the tailbone lift. In this position, you're then thinking about the abdominals pulling in, and then the breath. All these components you start thinking about, and then slowly coming back in. So we talked earlier in the training clip about the knee positioning. So now just really think about the torso and what you're doing there. Really think about that stabilization component of lengthening, ribs away from the hips. You want to, unless it's cued for you to bend into it, most often you're lengthening away and you're keeping the rib cage open because that's helping with the breath.